Test, 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 test. Alright, good. Here we are. Here we are again. It is nighttime. I am out on the balcony again. Ready to hopefully continue on what I've started today, earlier today, in a couple of recordings lasting so far I believe 3 hours of material, basically just me talking non-stop, attempting to get a flow going with my words to explain or express so many numbers of things which I have on my mind right now, which are very difficult to write about. So I have just been spending quite a bit of time on household stuff today. Just consolidated a bunch of stuff into storage, made a bunch of room, clean out the space, clean out the atmosphere, allowing for the mind to be at more peace, knowing that things are done, as well as there being space and order to do things in. Basically, as above, so below type thing. Unclutter your space, unclutter your mind, let your thoughts be less tied down or constrained by the environment. Too many signals coming in, different signals, so much dissonance from all around being perceived. So I'm going to come back to what I was working on earlier. I'm again using the dictate protocol to simply speak a flow of words to get something down, which I will later transcribe and pick through and sort through, and I'll maybe able to use all of this material to paint a picture in various media, various different ways. Today I have not been taking notes. I've just been talking and speaking and generally trying to remember where I've gone on this track and this strike point protocol. Right now the strike point is basically the bootstrap of the system, of the guild system. We've been talking about that all day, about the proximity guilds, the natural guilds, the fundamental guilds, corresponding with the concrete, abstract, and mimetic layers of the neurological OS, respectively. And so we've laid down a number of protocols to allow for this, for there to be enough material to bootstrap the neural operating system environment with an isomorphic processes. These now being codified so far in just plain English language into the recorder so far today. Yeah, so it's been a good day. Covered a lot of ground, and hopefully I'll be able to pick back up where I left off, and I'll be able to touch a number of points which I wasn't able to get to yet. Where I want to go with this is at least that I've created a list, a sort of table of contents or subjects, an arc. So I had iterated before I started these recordings a sort of arc. This was yesterday. I did this, which is just kind of like a number of narratives that people may be interested in, and linking them all together. So a whole bunch of my work that I've been doing, especially the past 2 years, to give an update to the writing series that I had been writing. So there are many things that could be relevant to that, just general community type awareness of what's been going on, any events, happenings, whatever. All of this could be interesting in when posted to your Reddit, to the SOTS community. It's been my preference to try to take advantage of any kind of opportunities for speaking the myth of SOTS to the community, helping to build that together. And so right now I'm just proceeding to lay out bootstrapping material for the neural and social operating systems, neurological, sociological. And so far we have a pretty good start. So we have the MPG. That's the mobile portal generator. We have the coherence protocol, degrees of coherence protocol. We also have the concern protocol, the aware areas of concern protocol. And we have the artifact, the quest object and or quest artifact, potentially pluralized depending on perception. So we have all these things to make the mobile portal generator, and so this is an expedient way of bringing the bridging the territory between mountains and lighting up illuminating the beam of light, the shaft of light at the summit of the mountain. In order to bring the network online, we need to be able to be very mobile with our operations, not necessarily stuck to a Telegram chat, specifically an R&D chat for developing the most generic, trigger-free, boring language as possible, so that the emphasis can be made on the clarity of what's being conveyed. Also, there's the note about how if we tried using an existing symbol set, that would just cause the problem of triggering. So people will navigate that symbol set based on their history without taking great care to be observing the feedback of the model when you foreground it on the background of your experience, speaking mimetically. Okay, so we have the MPG. Where else did I want to go in this? Let's see if I can just quickly read down some of the... So obviously dopamine hits, those are relevant. People want dopamine hits. We're going to talk about the primary schism, which has plagued humanity since the dawn of the axial age. So this is getting into the bridging the work with Zumi and the Alphabetica crew. So how this schism has unleashed the spectacle from the constraints of the body. Specifically, we're talking about externalized memory, enabling the organs to be externalized as well, very, very much easily. So the printing press, basically the APS losing its mooring from the body. That dynamic that always has to keep happening to check to make sure that your ideas, your ideology, whatever, your ontologies, or rather your epistemologies are matching with the experience of your ontology. I don't know if I said that right, but anyways. So how this schism has been unleashed from the constraints of the body. So it used to be oral transmission of culture. Then it went to externalized media, such as paper, whatever, written. The symbols became developed. They became well enough to form that next archetype, forming a new holon, which is this externalized alphabet, which is able to capture the words being spoken, so articulate enough to capture and basically imitate from a medium what a person does when they speak. So now it's on paper. You're allowing that imitation, and then these words via the APS becomes scattered out into the environment, and the environment starts really coming back at us with this mechanical so like the machine comes back very loud at us, and if we're not having the proper processes in place, we may be subjecting ourselves to a reality which was computationally engineered to interface with our organ externalization agent relays programs running that we run. Anyway, so we'll get to that later. So that's the Alphabetica stuff. Just been trying to link the projects together in the last month or so, the last few weeks, ever since the trial of Portal Mountain. Things have been going very, very quickly. Alphabetica, and again talking about APS coming back against you, and how cybernetics have been utilized to create these to reinforce these feedbacks, so positive feedback loops, which enforce behaviors from the ideal, from the abstract onto the concrete. They're enforcing behaviors because we are taking instructions, and our way of navigating that is by choosing which authority to trust, but not realizing the inner authority of the facilities of the neurological operating system, which we have access to, which can break down and perceive and understand these instructions. Okay, it's not an instantaneous thing. You have to be you first off, you encounter instructions when you're trying to do something and someone tells you how to do it. When you have in other words, you have developed an awareness, now you're going to commit. Okay, we went through this before. These are the skills. So a skill of awareness in a certain area, a certain behavior, a skill of accountability to follow through with your actions, and build up the experiences necessary to make that leap, to have the enough materials. Okay, this is like a strike point domain where you have enough materials that the mind that the patterns are recognized, that analogies get locked in, and suddenly it clicks, and now you're seeing, oh, this is just like that, and this is like this, and now you have an operational way of interfacing which is beyond the instructions. You don't need the instructions anymore because now you know how it works, right? So that's a discipline. You start the kind of secrets behind the system. You're now practicing those, and as you practice those secrets, you're making predictive, prophetic and predictive programs where you are making a prediction based on this newfound insight, or so based on newfound insights, you're making predictions and following through with them, gaining even more experience, and in a much more accelerated and refined way, because now you know how to craft and create these experiments in a way that's that's already benefiting from your increased coherence and perception of what's going on. So that will lead to insights, and the insights which enable clear expressions, better expressions. You become much more dynamic. You can go into other contexts and see or answer the question, okay, how do we apply this? How do we apply this in context? Okay, so that's insight, that's mastery. The discipline is membership. Insight and the ability to speak into other systems and translate and all that. Mastery. Okay, so anyways, moving on. How religious organization adapted to the externalization of language. So what happened to spiritual pursuits and spiritual organizations? What happened to them in this new environment? So we have the alphabet Holon, which is the externalized symbolic representation of orality in a symbolic form, which is etched into a medium, expressed and then later on interpreted, without necessarily having the benefit of the one who actually spoke it right there to explain things to you if you fuck it up, which you will. And this is again the nature of instructions. It very much helps at this point to have somebody to debrief your experiences and help to translate them for you. So like it's insights. So insights given to your situation, things which will make sense in your context. Again, this is a benefit. This is benefit of having a guide, a teacher, whatever you want to say, a mentor, depending on angle of ingress. Okay, so going down this list. So I wanted to, with that, talk about the main problem of religion, which happened, which again is that basically, as I was just describing, you get stuck in participation without enough people having mastery surrounding you. Participation easily becomes captured by dead processes and routines, which stop questioning themselves. So in other words, the process of life and what the spirit does to break away and break apart and to become living and dynamic again, that is often being quashed, even intentionally. And what did I mean by some applications? Some approaches. Okay, so what to do about this religion problem? For example, we have a protocol a respect protocol. I guess you could say in Portal Mountain it's simple. Just treat everybody else as a master and treat yourself as a guest in the space, in the interaction. So that helps with welcoming. That helps to start to open up a relationship. So it's not the purpose is not one dominating the other or anything like that. It's just a connection, a sharing, and just let just make space and allow for a genuine and dynamic interaction to occur. So what else do we have? How philosophy remains impotent. So philosophy often remains, to use a cliche term, ungrounded. And what it means is that so the way that whatever you'd call the modern subject is raised up today is to suppress the body, suppress emotion, so to suppress intuition. So the feelings that your body is providing to you noticing like the events, the traumas that you've had, how these impact you. Like this is taking notice of the body, and these are the areas of concern to start to take care of these kinds of things. So again, the philosophy, I'm just using that as a general term, I guess. It means like totally abstract theorizing, ideological processing, mechanical processing of ideologies and positions against each other, whatever, all that crap. This is the danger, and this is the impotence, and it comes back to the primary schism, which was this separation of body and mind, or heart and mind, in a way, giving metaphors, creating automatons. Like if you have any reason to understand or believe that why this society might be characterized in such a way as zombie society, automaton, robotic, people are machines, people are robots. If any of this, if you've ever heard any of this and understand where it's coming from, then and you want to know the root of it, you have to look at the primary schism. And although this was happening, this always happens. It's a natural part of life in some regards. Before membership in whatever behavior domain. So we always have this problem of ignorance. People are always being born. They're always babies. They're coming, and what we are doing with these people is suppressing all of their inner emotions, whatever. Anyways, I don't need to go into all the details of the sociological aspects of how this happened and whatever. The important part is that they're the myth that we're working with, or hyperstitious or hyperstition, is this model of ignorance going through time, and it just happened before, but we never, because of the orality of tradition, always involving speakers and people face to face. There was always that room, that space for the shaman, shamanistic activities, even to help people and provide the crutch artifact. So with orality, that was always a possibility, and of course we knew about the dangers of calcified, of getting crusty, of not being dynamic, and so you had all these different traditions and spiritual traditions, which, because they were generative, being passed on through generation to generation, there is some things in that they were in tune with, whatever their belief, or however they could see themselves as vessels for spirits or whatever, and that the world outside is alive, and that everything is living and breathing and moving. That's the kind of animistic sense, that everything is in a flux and in a process, and therefore when our minds are crusty, we are assuming what that thing is, and we are not open to receiving new data. We are not being sensitive. We are not being present for these objects around us, which deserve, you could say, our attention, especially each other, especially ourselves. So we have to open back up this channel, to kind of loosen up on our rigid what's Exile's favorite word, so we have to loosen up the way that we project our APS onto the spectacle. There should be an interplay, a dynamic, a back and forth between the abstract and concrete. This is what the shaman is always looking for. Those crusty old structures. Whatever's holding on, whatever's not flowing. So philosophy remains impotent. So it comes all down to this, that if you're an automaton and you're interacting with philosophy, not automaton, like, you know what I mean, like I'm saying that if you are processing your experience of reality in a very machine-like way, even though you wouldn't realize that you're doing it, time keeps on slipping into the future, and days keep going by faster and faster. You've lost that spark of childhood, of wonder, the dreaming wonder about everything around you, having potential to just be or do anything. So if you've lost that, you don't have this connection, which is what. So it's reframing your perspective of what's important and how to approach the world by going through the constraints of the body. By saying, okay, we all have so much in common. We all have bodies. We all have organs. We all have minds. We all have these neural operating systems. We can see that they're functioning in similar ways. We can communicate isomorphically in ways that fit and slot in a coherent way, to creating coherence between the internal and external memory and systems. So we go through the body. We say, what are the concerns? What are the concerns of the body? And instead of coming top down and never grounding our ideas in any kind of context, that's what this is about. It's about a concrete context into which to ground these abstractions and start doing that feedback process where you start taking your ideas, your models, you make predictions, and then you start experimenting and you start doing it. And if what you're doing has nothing to do with sustaining life, sustaining the body, interacting with people, figuring out how to interact with people, how to do a society, how to do various parts of society, how to pull all of your, or some, or work on recovering your organs and re-internalizing some of them, also known as disintermediation. So these are the things that the philosopher doesn't do unless they've had one of these like insight experiences, or they've been on they've found themselves on the journey of the hero, and so they are on the journey, and maybe they've found what they're looking for, and this is how the philosopher becomes whole. Now they will, whatever they say will have a real life context. They will start building into their own life rather than building castles in the sky with no connection to anything, and no action resulting in any kind of coherence, no proximity guilds, no other people, no sharing of processes, just no dynamic to be working on processes, even internally, neurologically. All that stuff will be missing. So the philosopher remains impotent while the primary schism of the axial age has not been addressed. So politics remains impotent basically for the same reason. It's all a big projection of the APS. So politics amounts to theorizing and idealizing about what other people should be doing to fix problems, to supposedly fix problems in a top-down, iron-fisted, whatever, heavy-fisted, heavy-handed way, which isn't how nature works. It's not how you grow a plant. You cannot force a plant to grow. You simply leave the space open for it, and you become aware of its constraints, and you stop breaking them. And then life unfolds, energy flows properly, things happen. This is not about control. Okay, so politics fundamentally cannot ever work because the only people doing any kind of feedback or any kind of cybernetics are the politicians and their handlers, probably hardly even the politicians themselves, being necessarily more figurehead type representations and translations of deep state power into palatable analogs within public society. So how is the primary schism being healed? So we are updating and restoring the neurological operating system as well, which then unfolds itself into expressing as the sociological operating system. So we are learning how to connect together, how to work together, how to make relationships, how to make actual steady recurring groups, things happening, processes happening on regular intervals, whatever needs to be the heartbeat of society. These are the proximity guilds, and whatever the best of the best that we figure out by those who are participating in the actual writing of protocols. Even, of course, this is naturally restricted to membership. I mean, sure, anybody else can try, but whether it's going to be isomorphic is always going to be up to interpretation. But as well, it would be common to leave pitfalls and other such things. So, great idea, participant, if they want to suggest something. It has to be filtered through membership, through the eyes of a member who can see whether this will or will not be coherent. And then, in other words, and then mimetically select it and start implementing it within their sphere of influence. Yep, I'll be right in.